The shortest path to a yes often begins with a well-framed no. Psychology explains this in a very important way. The human mind does not evaluate requests in isolation. It processes information through comparison, context, and timing. What comes first often shapes how everything that follows is understood. Most people see rejection as something negative, but in reality, rejection is simply feedback. It is information that helps us understand how a request is being perceived and processed. This is known in psychology as the door-in-the-face effect, a principle based on perception and contrast. The idea is simple. When you begin with a larger request, something that is unlikely to be accepted, you create a reference point in the conversation. That first request sets context. Then, when you follow it with a smaller and more practical request, the second option feels more reasonable in comparison. Not because the request changed, but because the context changed. The human brain naturally compares information. It evaluates things in relation to what it has already seen. So when a large request is followed by a smaller one, the second option feels easier to consider. This is perception at work. This is the principle of perceptual contrast. People do not always evaluate ideas in isolation. They compare them. And in that comparison, relative difference becomes more influential than absolute value. Something can feel large in one context and reasonable in another, depending on what it is compared with. This is why framing plays such an important role in communication. As highlighted by Robert Greene, human behavior is often influenced by perception, positioning, and timing rather than direct logic alone. The way information is presented can shape how it is understood. When you understand this, rejection becomes easier to interpret. It is no longer something personal, it becomes part of communication feedback that helps refine understanding. Another important principle in psychology is reciprocity. When people see a shift from a larger request to a smaller one, they often perceive it as a natural adjustment. This creates a sense of balance in communication and makes interactions feel more cooperative. This is where communication becomes structured and intentional. In negotiation, leadership, and everyday conversations, people respond not only to what is said, but also to how it is framed and presented. As Niccolò Machiavelli observed, human judgment is often influenced by perception and framing alongside reasoning. But this concept is not about controlling outcomes. It is about understanding how communication and decision-making work in real situations, so that ideas can be expressed more clearly and effectively. When rejection is seen as feedback instead of failure, communication becomes more stable and calm. It allows adjustment without emotional pressure. This creates a clearer and more structured way of interacting. You are no longer forcing agreement. You are improving clarity. And when clarity increases, communication becomes smoother. The timing between ideas also matters. The shift from a larger request to a smaller one should feel natural and connected. When the transition is smooth, the second request is understood more easily. This is what makes communication effective: clarity, timing, and structure working together. As you observe this principle in real life, you will notice it in many situations. In discussions, negotiations, and everyday conversations, people respond to comparisons more than isolated statements. And once you recognize this, communication becomes more intentional and structured, not to influence outcomes, but to improve understanding, not to pressure decisions, but to make communication clearer. Because at its core, communication is about perception, and perception is shaped by context. So the next time you hear a no, treat it as information that helps improve your approach. And the next time you make a request, remember that what comes before it can influence how it is understood. Stay aware, stay composed, and communicate with clarity, structure, and understanding. If you found this insightful, subscribe for more psychology breakdowns. Like the video if it added value, and share it with someone who wants to improve their communication skills. Because in the end, better communication comes down to clarity, timing, and understanding context.